and to disseminate it. So shout out to everybody that's out there, both teaching the babies, teaching the adults, teaching the young adults, teaching the elders, and teaching themselves. Each one teach one. You dig? Somebody said, just got in and I'm in Maryland. What about the Chesapeake Bay? Well, when it comes to the Chesapeake Bay, and especially in a few days, they're going to be celebrating the 4th of July. They're going to be celebrating the USA 250. There are 4 regions that we'll be talking about and we'll be highlighting when it comes to both reparations. Because what I'm going to be doing is giving my brothers and sisters this alley oop when it comes to the reparations, when it comes to getting what's rightfully yours and whatnot, and when it comes to getting the information proper and really getting the hidden history and uncovering a lot of things that they're hiding. There's 4 places. One is Chesapeake Bay, Virginia. 2 is Natchez, Mississippi. 3 is New Orleans, Louisiana. These are all the ports. And the 4th one is Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm sure y'all noticed it's not hundreds of people in here, but when we did the roll call, everybody from those 4 points is in the building. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's not a coincidence. Like I said earlier, everybody that's here to get this information, it's of no coincidence that I'm literally, the research is touching on somewhere where everybody who did the roll call is from. Whether it's Houston, whether it's T. Dot, Canada, whether it's quote unquote New York City, Empire State. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Peace from Chicago, the Windy City. You already know Chicago is in the conversation. Rising power to Mama Khadija. Rising power to the wife of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, who was there from day one. The Rock, right? And I was highlighting the master teachers on Father's Day, but I also, without being, I definitely gave the goddesses their rocks, their ribs, their significant others, their flowers as well, and was like, behind all of these great men, I could go through the list of these men. I don't know near one of these men that were single. I don't know any one of these master teachers that were like running around with the single card. Who got the heat wave coming tomorrow? Because I know that they getting licks in France. I know that Europe is on fire. I know that France is on fire. And I know that the USA is about to get on fire.
Yeah, it's about to get real hot in the DMV. We got a couple days that are supposed to be like 100, 101.
I saw the map. I saw the map. It's a dome going there. It's a hair
That's
hat over the USA right now. But look at divine judgment. Look at how divine judgment works.
that's my cue right there.
Huh?
That's
That's your cue right there.
that's
Divine
my
judgment.
cue.
All right, come on in, man. I wish we had the intro music.
Yeah, this nigga about to go.
Come on, not Rocky
Yeah.
Balboa. Come on, my dude.
You got your segment, right?
Clubber Lang. You gonna be Apollo Creed or Clubber Lang? Which one?
Let's get it. Peace to the family, peace, love, and light. Brother Blue, Port, and live and direct. Yes, indeed. I want to ask the brother Red in the building together. Did you know it was going to be the 38-year anniversary of It Takes a Nation?
I had no idea. Well, that's Fear of a Black Planet or It Takes a Nation of Millions.
Takes a Nation a Million is in 88. Fear of a Black is in 90, I believe. So it's the precursor. It's the rhythm. It's all of that. It's the stuff
Oh, it's
we
that
was
one.
Yeah, when we was in Harlem and they was at the rooftop playing Public Enemy,
You can
Bum
hear
Rush
the
the
music from the
Show, and
crib.
all of that. It was our introduction. It's when it's when Public Enemy latched on. We was like, yeah, this is it.
Cause look,
That
they
was that
wasn't playing that
album.
in Flatbush. We was living in Brooklyn, but when we went to visit our mother in Harlem, it was more
Harlem.
FBA.
It was more FBA. They was playing more Dougie, you know, more Harlem
Lottie Dottie.
upbeat stuff. Lottie Dottie,
All the party music, all the
all the
block
party
party music.
music. Because she lived a few blocks away from the Rooftop, and you could sit in the window at night, and Rooftop was right across the bridge. You could hear the whole set.
Yeah, it was
Lucy
down
B
there.
and them
Yeah.
playing, spinning, and all of that, and then Alpo and them would be doing wheelies up and down the block. You know,
Edgecombe. Yeah,
we was, we
we
was
was
in the
on Saint
window.
Nick and Edgecombe was the block
Yeah,
over.
we was in the window catching all of that. And what a beautiful experience, you know what I'm saying, to be so close to it, but so far from it at the same time. It gave us an amazing experience. And I think that I have, you know, I took away from that almost like Nasir Jones, how he said being in the project window turned him into the sort of poet that he ultimately became because you are an observer. So my field of specialty is I decode, but I also pre-code. You know what I'm saying? I've observed the story long enough to become part of it. Points. You know, I get in the story, I get active, I get on the field, I make things happen like Peter Parker, and then switch back into my, you know, my button up, and I report on the things that I actually participated in helping move forward. So I say all that to say this 10-year anniversary is very special because it's definitely circling the block. I'm definitely able to see things come full circle. And as I shared on the live earlier, we are a week removed from last Sunday, which was monumental. It was Father's Day. It was the solstice, and it was the beginning of summer, but also it was the beginning of cancer. And we don't accredit that. It was the entire family panel. The whole pantheon was impaneled last Sunday. Father, mother, and son. The my son ushers in cancer season. Melanated people are astrologically Cancerian. We are definitely connected to the water. We're separated by the water, right? But we're also a very emotional people. Cancer is our sign. We're people who have an indelible relationship, unlike any other, to our umis, to our mothers. There's been uber Cancerian energy since last Sunday. Yes, Big Mama energy. No disrespect to Big Papa. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to Big Papa, but Big Mama came and got clobbed the next day. You know what I'm saying? Big Mama is putting in that work. Big Mama's cleaning up house. Big Mama's getting, you know, the reflecting pool cleaned out in time for July 4th. This is symbolically speaking, of course, right? Draining the swamp. But also, Big Mama is also responsible for grabbing her daughter so she can what? Put together a divine council to receive the giants that will be leaving us soon as well, to take their rightful place in the council of ancestors. So what? The warriors down here can get busy. Elders for council, youth for war. Right? Those times are now upon us. All of the cosmological signs point to this. We are officially in summer, heading towards the dog days of summer. Let the heat wave show as a clear and concise demonstration that Big Mama has come back to enact justice for the unwrongdoing to her children. At the same time, her children are on the global stage showing the efficacy of their mitochondrial connection to Mama, their genetic supremacy, right? And their emotional intelligence in the face of World Cup racism, in the face of Trump administration, in the face of, right, annihilation. We still seem to keep our calm. We still show up on the stage in a stellar way. We're still what? Holding the cosmos up on our back. So in the spirit of that, I also want to say that this is the 1 year anniversary of Atlanta is Atlantis. When we put the call out and the family answered the call and we went to the mountain a year ago today at 5:44 a.m. and we shook the world up. Please be clear. Please be clear. Right? That was one of the last things that Charlie Kirk even was initiating energy and attention towards. They were attempting to campaign and castigate our collective as woke, right? And they were utilizing that to run a play against spirituality and what they call witchcraft, only for him to get put in a pickle by Etsy witches, whether they did it or not, right? Just him playing in those parts and having the nerve to attempt to castigate a concept like Atlantis when these same people is responsible for building out Project Stargate. So with no further ado, let me get into this. I'll just remind us, the family that was not there, and I don't got too much. I thought that I had more content in this slide dealing with the event from last year. This is a combination of energy from hikes prior, build up prior, right? And I think this slide right here might be from the day of, or this one right here. That ain't even it. That was from ones before. But anyway, no, this was from there, right? For the family that was there, you know that energy can't be captured in the picture. You know, for the family that was seeing it on social media, it was actually 100 times more potent than that. You know, and I don't know if it can ever be duplicated, but I'm open and willing to see people give it an attempt and give it a try, because they have definitely ramped up the propaganda campaign around the Ku Klux Klan and the Confederacy claiming back Stone Mountain. They won't tell you that they got their chain snatched from it, so they're trying to take something back that's not theirs anymore. But this what happened right away when they started blowing their trumpet and attempting to mitigate people who were tapping into their spirituality and dealing with their last degrees of Chiron and Aries. What is that? Wounds to a people's self-identity, wounds to a people's self-worth, right? If you don't know who you are, who you came from, how you gonna get in your bag, right? If you don't know how far your bloodline extends, how you gonna grab a pair? How you gonna stand 10 toes down if you don't know what shoulders you standing on? So our attempts to know thyself, our attempts to get to this information is readily and freely available to us in the information age is being met with energy where these people not only want to erase your history, now they want to erase you. Like the nerve of you to want to know who you are and do something about it. So immediately when they started popping their lips, right, a few days afterwards, unfortunately, because they were calling us mystics, attempting to castigate the demonstration and say that we were mystics and we were doing black magic and things of that nature. And a few days later, on July 4th of last year in the mornings, unfortunately, at Camp Mystic, there was a flash flood, water, and the sign of Cancer that snatched up these children, you know, and they were not able to protect that. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, we know about Charlie Kirk and a few ticks afterwards. And he was very vocal, as I said, about attempting to castigate that demonstration as something that was very unchristian or, that needed further investigation. But it was really just a demonstration that interrupted that energetic frequency of what the Klan had been so comfortable having people in the city scared to demonstrate, scared to make a claim to the crystal. So it's the 1 year anniversary of that, you know what I mean? And I think that's worthwhile building upon that energy signature, that energy frequency, because it definitely had them people in their feelings. So let me know if you can see this right here.
Yeah.
Righteous.
Okay. I'm trying to see where I necessarily want to start from. Though I want to jump right into this. Okay. 38 years ago today, Public Enemy released their groundbreaking record album. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. So that 3 and that 8, that's 11. That's Pillars, right? We're celebrating the 10-year anniversary.
I'm not saying that. I'm seeing your Stone Mountain pictures.
Oh, still the Stone Mountain. Okay. All right. Let me switch that up. 1 second. I'm talking about. There we go. Chill. You see me?
Yeah.
All right. 38 years ago today, right? This day will forever go down in history. This is a day of demonstrations. June 28th, right? And last year, this was a few days after the meteorite struck. And I had a slide. I ain't throw it in. They had they didn't have all of them, but there has been over a dozen unprecedented incidents of fireballs falling out of the sky, meteorites and things of that nature. All of that is ramped up this year so much that you don't even hear about it no more. But it's excessive. It's happening all over the place. So a few years ago today, they call it the McDonough meteorite hit, and then it opened up us going to the mountain. And then 2 or 3 days after we went to the mountain, that's when the 3-eye atlas was first spotted. Okay. So 38 years ago, that 3 and the 8, like I said, that's dealing with the pillar energy. The pillars present our 10-year anniversary of Fear of a Blackamoor Messiah 44, right? So let me just, I'm gonna just knock the 44 stuff out the box from the gate so we can lay a foundation. I don't know who's new here and who still has questions about what is all of this 44 stuff. I'm gonna do as best as I can to explain it in the most simplistic of ways possible. Right? Just to give you orientation, because we're not taught in regular society to see symbols or see numbers as geometry or see numbers as symbols. You know what I'm saying? In the beginning was the number, and the number was with God, and the number was God. But we're consistently and constantly being taught from biblical perspectives the power of these numbers. You know what I'm saying? And you just can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't pretend like, things that even if you don't agree with them, they don't have a forbearing on this reality. The background and the backdrop of this reality, of this particular construct of what we call the matrix. Yeah, the church and the cross, or the cross and the crown, are indelible players in it in terms of framing your reality by way of the calendar and the clock. Like, just be for real. So, as always, we mentioned that this information was initially first introduced to the world back in 2009 in our introduction lecture called Blueprint 322. This is also the lecture that became the first lecture in the Exposed series. When the Africans got it, they bootlegged it. It was an underground classic, and they started what's called the Exposed series, which to me was like the precursor. That was like woke. You know what I'm saying? Because it's when the hood was attempting to understand the information on the occult, on esoteric information in hip hop, and ultimately in our society. You know, so shout out to the family that started, that took the Expose and or took Blueprint and turned it to the Expose series. All right. Today again we're speaking about fear of a Blackamoor Messiah. Off the break, we identified that the gematria, which gematria is a word that means geometry. So the geometry of letters into words, you know what I'm saying? Words have shapes. If words are worlds, then worlds have shapes, right? And those shapes either coincide with other shapes or they oppose them. You know what I'm saying? They're squaring them. Um, and that's a new way to look at things. That's a new way to look at words. That's a new way to look at objects. You know what I'm saying? Like objects with the same numerical frequency have an affinity towards one another, right? So the concept of Messiah, Jesus had a ministry that lasted 44 months and 4 days, right? But we can find the 44 cipher running through all of these messianic figures, from Jesus to Muhammad to Lucifer, who also shares identity with Jesus as the morning star. It's an interchangeable role that they play in the cosmic order because they're telling a cosmic narrative that has been anthropomorphized into a physical, mythos, right? That we are caught up in and raptured in. Fable, mythos, 5. So, and they all share the cube. They all share aspects to the black cube, right? With Jesus being the cross, Saturn and Lucifer having their connection, and Muhammad and the Kaaba. Okay, they all have their connection to the black cube. As you can see, the cross is a three-dimensional cube, or what they call a tesseract, a hypercube, a cube within a cube. So while you're looking at a cross, I see a box. And while I'm looking at a box, I see a cube. And while I'm looking at a cube, I see a cube within a cube. So I see it as a hypercube. Okay. And that's just how I see. I'm doing my best to help to train you to, if you so choose to take the blue pill, you can see reality that same way, right? In shapes, in numbers, in colors. Okay. Alternatively, we can unfold the faces of a cube into 6 squares. We can unfold a 3-dimensional boundary of a tesseract to obtain 8 cubes, right? So not only is it a cross, but a cross is 8 cubes, as Salvatore Dali showcased in his 1954 painting, Crucifixion, Corpus Hypercubus, okay? We can envision a cube by unfolding its faces. Likewise, we can start to envision a tesseract by unfolding its boundary cubes. Okay, so this would be an example of what a tesseract is. Okay, you've heard about it in the Marvel cosmic universe. Like I got to use movies in order to teach reality to family, because we have been ingrained with entertainment and entrained with entertainment, and we see our reality through the lens of entertainment. But entertainment could be edutainment as well. And we appreciate the fact that, yes, we are being taught something, and they are borrowing from real things to create imaginative worlds, fantasy realms. But a tesseract is very much real. This is how you interact with the world. You're in your personal cube, like your cubicle, but then your cubicle's in the building, right? Or you're in your cubicle, but your cubicle is in a floor with other cubicles, but that floor is inside of a building, and that building's inside of a city. And that city's inside of a state, and that state's inside of a country, and that country's inside of a globe, and that globe's inside of a galaxy, and that galaxy is inside of another galaxy. So it's always cubes within cubes within cubes within cubes, and their relationships to one another. Where do they touch? Where do they meet? Where do they interact? Because they're not independent of one another. Even if they appear to be, all things are connected. Okay. This is, yeah, it was just, all right. So I want to show some of these astrological signs that have an affinity towards the number 44. Like I said, 44 represents a shape. If a four is a cube, if a four is a square, should I say, then a 44 is two squares, and the two squares make a cube, but it's a hypercube. It's a cube within a cube. 444, right? But it's all intertwined and entangled within itself. So we see the correlation and the connections. 44 means a lot of different things, but we can find the throughways or the connection of we can sink it down to get a general understanding of when we hear the number, what are they alluding to? One of the main themes of 44 is blood, right? And 444 is bloodlines. Okay, so blood is the plasma of all things in creation. Just like 44 connects to carbon, which is the blood of the planet by way of oil, but it's a carbon, it's a cube, a six-faced cube, right? Aries and blood is just a crystal river, it's crystallized plasma, if you will. It's a cube as well. Aries, which is governed by Mars, which has a direct connection to blood. Aries equals 44. The lamb is 44. Hence the fact that I said that Jesus is also a 44 resonator. Virgo, 443, right? Something extra on the back. Aquarius, though. Aquarius is straight up 44, the bucket, the age of Aquarius. Pluto will be in Aquarius until 2044. That's not a coincidence, right? That's astrological, mathematical alignment, right? That is the creator, whoever designed this thing, that's the mathematical perfection of how these things just line up. Okay. They showed you the Tesseract, of course, in the movie Interstellar, right? Shout out to Chris Nolan. He did an amazing job showing how, and again, in the Tesseract, you can divide time and space in a hypercube because time and space they come under the law of 44. They both equal 44, but they're dealing with physical dimensionality, whereas a hypercube is taking you out of space and time. Capturing the light, caging the light. We're going to speak about that. That's what these contracts are doing, right? We'll show you a still of a movie that they put out a few years ago with Whitney Houston. It was executive produced by Clive Davis, who was born on April 4th. He's a 44 resonator. And in that still picture, you will see the cube behind the head of Whitney Houston capturing the souls when they sign people to them soul contracts into perpetuity, right? All throughout the universe. They're capturing their light in the cube. Okay? From rocks to icebergs, the natural world tends to break into cubes. This entire place is built out of cubes, right? If you left everything alone, it will fall into order by way of the cube. It's hexagonal. This is a carbon matrix that we exist in. This is the making of the dimensions, right? By way of lines, right? 0 point is just a black dot. Point to one point to another, that is the creation of time, because time is the measurement of space between one line and the next, right? That's where you get your ticks and your counts from. Because of matter. Matter, the existence of matter denotes time. The absence of matter, what would be the use for time? So when carbon is in play, hence the fact that they use carbon dating to tell how old something is. They tell time with carbon dating because the evidence of physical matter denotes time, because it's the measurement from one space or one dot to the next. And then 2D is the dimensionality when you turn it into a square. 3D is when you dimensionalize that and you turn it into a cube, which is a square within a square, and so on and so forth. And then the fourth dimension, again, like I said, is the tesseract. And it governs time and space. but it also equals time and space, or 44, should I say. Okay, the cube has 3 dimensions, square has 2 dimensions, so a tesseract has 4 dimensions. The very foundational pinning of our reality is built on square feet, right? Or pixelized reality. We love to say it's a simulation. All right, then it's pixelized. But the physical world, the world that master builders build out in, the house that we live in, the space that we occupy, it's all measured in square feet. A square foot is 144 square inches, right? They said that God built for 6 days and then took a day off. That's 144 hours. You do the math. 6 times 24 is 144. Even God is using the principle in order to build. But they said that the name of God is Yahweh. The name of Yahweh is a 4-letter name. Those 4 letters are YHVH. When you add those letters up, they equal 26. When you split 26, you get 13 plus 13, or 4 plus 4, right? So it's again, it's a hidden code that combines and unites all things known and unknown in physical reality intertwined with the unphysical reality, utilizing the majesty of a number that stretches itself. And what do I mean by that? I'll show you. Just like how, it's used as a building apparatus or a number that you can square and build things with. Okay. What makes 44 144? Or am I just fludging things? Am I stretching it? No, I don't have to stretch it. I'll show you how it does it. Okay. So this is the geometry of fourth dimensions in the space-time, right? 1905, Einstein published his special theory of relativity, which considers time as the 4th dimension. Let's take a look at the cube again. As long as the cube is stationary, we can pinpoint its position along the X, Y, and Z axis. But what if the cube starts moving? How can we pinpoint its exact position? In order to say the position of this moving object, Einstein introduced a dimension called time into this 3D space. Okay. So again, the time is the measurement of matter. Okay. And it breaks down. 24 hours is 1,440 minutes, right? And 24, you get it by 12 times 12, which is 144, right? 1,440 minutes breaks down to 86,400 seconds. The 720 minutes breaks down to 43,200 seconds. If you notice these numbers, these are the Hertz frequencies that work healing wonders from 432 to 144, right? 440 might be the frequency that everything is set to that's very harmful, but 441 as a Hertz is a healing Hertz as well. Just one notch up. And you also can see the 369 intertwined within the design of time, right? 12 hours broken down to 24 hours, broken down into minutes or what have you. And if you notice, we have this clock is situated counting counterclockwise, right? If you ever want to know how to go against the matrix or how to get out of this construct, you have to learn how to start flowing counterclockwise, because that's where the lockdown happens. Nothing in the universe flows clockwise other than artificial time. Nothing. Okay. So the majesticness of the cross that supersedes religion, of course, as you can see, a picture of a hologram of a single photon looks like a traditional Ethiopian cross, also like a Maltese cross. These things supersede religion. They're way older than that. Okay. And again, if we're discussing the geometry of numbers, how numbers are shapes, and those numbers that have the same number as another word, they have affinity. Let's say they're related, right? They're not twins, but they're brothers and sisters, if you will. Some of them come from different parents. They look totally different, but they got the same DNA in their blood. So God's son is connected to cross, right? Cross is connected to king. King is connected to Messiah. All of those things flow. But when you look at the word April 4th, if you attempt to spell out 4-4, it equals 144. And when you spell out 44, it equals 144, which means that 144 is 44. You dig? It just got a 1 in front. It's hinging a 1. It's a 9 because it flows, it spirals, as opposed to just 44, which is an 8, and that has corners. It doesn't flow and it doesn't spiral. It clunks. It concentrates. It's matter. It's dense, right? Hence the fact I'll show you the difference when they show the frequency of music being 440 hertz versus 432, right? So here we go. Time and space, right? Both 44 resonators, both of them equal 44. Not only do they come under the fourth dimension, and not only are they denoting, the relationship between matter, but which is carbon, but they also happen to perfectly equal the numerical frequency. They have a relationship with one another. They are indelibly related. Yes, again, 44. And if you'll notice again that the 864, all of this denotes time. All of this denotes time. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I think that's that for that part. I'm gonna get into the second part of this lecture. All right. All right. Okay. Hopefully the family knows what this is. I know. When they're looking at it, and Remus and Romulus. These are the predecessors of Rome. Okay, this is the wolf, right? Keep that in mind. He is so worthy. Again, I'm a Taurus, which we moved into last Saturday. Wounded healer. Taurus is back to the earth. Chiron and Aries was relationship, body, autonomy. What is relationship to your vessel? Language, right? Do you know that they hate you? Do you know why you're worthy of love, though? Right? So all things in existence have been prototyped from you. You are the most majestic and marvelous of creations, regardless of what block you was born on, regardless of what country they stamped your passport with, right? Regardless of what the scale says, my nigga, right? You're still composed of stardust. You still have infinite potentiality. You're still breathing the breath of life, right? You're still in the game. So, yes, we have always been the it. It's always been about us, right? And I'm speaking about humanity. We got to take a stand for humanity at this particular time. Man got his back on the wall, and he's being pressed against. He's being pressed by machines. He's being pressed by, a bunch of different things. So man has to make his last stand. But you got to know who you are in order to defend this thing. You got to know what's worth defending. So this is just some more so metaphysical information about how energy moves through your body, and why you are the light beings that you are, the universe inside of you. You know, the whole macro aspect of who and what you are, not just seeing yourself as a small fry, right? But you got what it takes. You know what I mean? You the reason that they shake at night. Okay. And these books that we have been raised and trained upon, they've been encoding this information all along. But we don't know how to turn water to wine. You know, we haven't been taught symbol literacy, how to decode and decipher things. We just surface readers, and a lot of us have become surface dwellers. We can't deep dive. You know, they're not taught critical thinking in school. So, and the brothers and sisters, they're not on the corners teaching. Yeah, there might be teacher taking place online, but is it the proper teaching, right? Are we really caring for the people in a way in which they're graduating from their self university? And how will we know? I hear amazing things on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? But I guess the more evidence that we see that people are knowing themselves, the things that they will start doing with themselves. You know what I mean? And we'll hear about it, or we'll see it. Okay. So here goes some encoding with the Noah's Ark build out. You know, how they were just speaking about the vessel, dimensions of our reality as they pertain to our relationship with shapes, or initially was science called the Platonic solids, which I say, how could they be called the Platonic solids if we had already mastered building? We were already master builders. We were already masons. We knew how to work shapes into architecture. We knew the mathematical precision of things. Why would you name it after somebody that we taught? That don't make sense, right? But anyway, these are divine mathematics, okay, that go into our own personal higher understanding of ourselves when we understand the science of these shapes. Because you are these shapes at a micro and macroscopic level, okay? Arm, leg, arm, head. You are, you know, the admin, cadmin, if you will. We created the human being, and we knew and we know what his soul whispers to him. We are nearer to him than his jugular vein. Okay. Your God gene is what's intimidating these people. You understand? And these aspects of who and what you are, the threat of you finding out or having the nerve to want to know who you are. I had promised the family something on the last YouTube live that I did, and I have the footage pulled up. I was speaking to them about the Merkaba. I was speaking to them about, you know, as I'm speaking to you about this physical, this terrestrial dimension, I was speaking to them about their extraterrestrial dimension. And I was suggesting that maybe they have not necessarily showed you who your extraterrestrial ancestors are. But when they start, and they've spoken publicly about plasma beings, they've spoke publicly about the plasma ships, but they haven't shown too much footage of it. I do have the footage, and I want to show you some of what it looks like. And I want you to use some of these images here to envision what do you look like time traveling? What do you look like coming back through time and space to present yourself with a message? You travel through your light body, you travel through a Merkaba, okay? And these are some, you know, schematics, if you will, of what that might look like energetically. You know what I'm saying? How your future self might build out to travel by way of your light body, your Merkaba. And there's no other way to explain the things that I grew up seeing in the skies other than us revisiting ourselves in these Merkabas. So let me just do this real quick, because I promised that I would show y'all. And what better time than now? Y'all all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on.
Okay. Right on. Now,
Let's
this footage is from 2010, and I shared this experience. I was actually with Brother Polite of all people. I was about to interview him. It was a Friday. We had just came from Pathmark, cooking for a lecture, and we were doing an interview on Blog Talk. And I seen the ships, and I was like, bro, I tried to point it out to him, and I thought that it would be something that he would be receptive to. But yeah, I learned that a lot of people weren't ready for it. They would say, they'll talk the talk, but when it was time to make the open acknowledgement, when the ancestors really did show up, a lot of people ducked. They wasn't ready for it, and maybe it was before its time. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be judgmental, but I want to share with you, this is what's out there without a shadow of a doubt. This is who your ancestors are.
I'm Philip Muhammad, and last Friday evening on August 13th, during my most recent interview with Brooklyn's first female boxer from Canarsie, Melissa X, formerly known as Melissa St. Ville, a very interesting thing happened. We started filming intro scene for her with the moon in the background. It was really nice, a great shot. And after the take was over, I noticed, after I turned the camera off, that an object which I was very familiar with appeared, and I started filming again. It was a shot that I had been praying for, for real. All right, get ready, okay? All right, this probably disputed. This object had been disputed by enthusiasts who believe that it was the planet Venus or a star, and others like myself who believe that it's not, a star. Melissa and I checked the skies. She was like, "Wow, what's that?" And I said, "Well, it's not a star because there's no other stars that you can see out there. It's by itself. We're not at the part of the night where you can see all the stars yet. Anyway, there was no other stars out there. And then this object just appeared instantly after I put the camera down. It wasn't there when we were filming the scene. It was sometime between 6 and 7, by the way. Furthermore, the object was moving about on its own and not on its axis, as would any planet.
Is there some audio that we supposed to be hearing?
Oh, dang, you wasn't hearing the audio?
No. I heard the initial audio where the brother was talking right
Okay.
there, but I didn't hear anything after that.
Nah, he just letting you get
Okay.
the visuals and shit. Get your meditation on and all that. You know what I'm saying? Get over your doubts. Shake it out of your system.
And when I zoomed in on the object, it was.
Yeah, I ain't gonna overbeat you with it. Pause. Ready to tell you, like, Yeah, I got. Oh man, yeah, you know, shit personal, man. I was having these experiences through the whole summer of 2010, and they try to call me crazy, y'all. They try to ostracize me. They would have sent me to the padded room and shit. You know what I mean? If I wasn't standing on my convictions, because the shit would show up every night, and I would communicate with it telepathically, and I would make it do things. And then I thought that that was the coolest shit in the world, but that was scaring people, you know, away. So I'm in my feelings because I feel like niggas wasted all this time. It's 2026, and the government could tell you that this stuff is real, and now everybody's deep. Everybody's decoding UFOs, but can't nobody call one up. And it's just so whack to me because when I came in, Prophet Yahweh was doing this shit on CBS News. It was already old information. A nigga was already doing it on the news from Philly. So I'm like, where's these slow, wanna be deep, talking like they, but niggas is not getting out in the field and doing nothing. But this supposed to be the community of I know. We ain't have to wait for them to tell us that we was in the Aquarian age. Like, you supposed to take this information and go out there and Reddit tell you, I've been communicating with craft since 2000. We was in LA, we went to see Sabian. That's the first time I seen one. And then we went to Venice Beach and I seen a reptilian. And then they wouldn't believe me, y'all. They thought that I was on shrooms before I was even on shrooms. And I'm just like, y'all get so passionate teaching about this shit though, that y'all never see. Y'all get so passionate talking about what David Icke says and all of this old stuff. But here this stuff is in the present time, and then we're not running to it, we're running from it, or we're running behind the screen and speaking about it, but we're not using it for liberation. We're not doing it for cultural exchange. We're not tapping into them. And they want to communicate with us. They got stuff for us. And we over here playing the human game and losing at it. It's embarrassing. All right. I'm getting off my I had my moment. I'm over. Get back. So that's what I was interested in, almighty invincibility, and the things that I was being communicated to from this craft. It was just like, yo, if only y'all just was not scared. The things that we can do for y'all, the stuff that we can show y'all, if only you would get out of your own way as a people. Like you're the gods and the goddesses of the galaxy. This is embarrassing for y'all everywhere. Like the universe is seeing y'all like an ostrich with his head in the sand and his butt in the air, and everyone's taking advantage of you. And we can't tell you no different because you the big dog. Now you in a situation and we can't help because you got to help yourself. So that's the premise of this fear of a Blackamoor Messiah. They know something about you that you refuse to believe about yourself, but you still paying the price for it because they're not letting up on the levers. Right? They're not letting up on the levers. So let's do this real thing with time real quick and then we'll move on. Clocks do exist, but time is just an agreed upon construct. We have taken distant long rotations of the earth in one orbit of the sun, divided up into segments and give those segments labels. While it has its uses, we have been programmed to live our lives by this construct as if it were real. We have confused our shared construct with something that is tangible and thus have become its slave. Right? So people are very much slaves to time, not knowing how to master and get around it. Okay. And nowadays, these have become the masters of our universe. These people that are tweaking these concepts of time by programming our future to control time, right? By creating synthetic time, by creating artificial time, by mastering artificial intelligence. and the people that are attempting to make our time run out while they extend their time. These are also the technocrats that are looking to be immortals. They're looking to extend their telomeres so their time here can be elongated, or to upload their consciousness into, the cloud and operate from a mental plane, from a time beyond time, outside of the physical body. They want to disembody embodiment while working for their machines to gain embodiment. Okay. Mr. AI, Peter Thiel, lectures about the Antichrist in Rome. So he's been on his high horse. Again, they're playing the Hegelian dialect. He is the Antichrist. So they're ushering in the Antichrist, but yet he's running around the globe warning about anyone who attempts to regulate AI is the Antichrist. But he's building out an autonomous killing machine with AI. So, like, what are you talking about? You feel me? And this appears they're running the game of good guy, bad guy. So he's going to be the evil genius, and then they're running the Pope as the good guy for AI ethics, knowing damn well that the crown and the cross have been behind this thing all along, right? And yeah, like being, global control is their brand, but now they're supposed to be concerned with either one, competition, or the unethical nature of, the framers who have figured out a way in which to put humanity under control, same way that religion has, right? So are they scared of competition, right? Because they damn sure don't care about humanity to that degree where they're concerned. The whistleblowers are coming forward, right, and saying that these madmen are definitely utilizing their position and the taxpayers' money to build out these supercomputers to operate in the capacity of God. And of course, that would have the Vatican shook. Of course, that makes their ears stand up. You know what I'm saying? But what role do they play? You know what I'm saying? How deep is their hand in the cookie jar? It's very unconscionable for y'all as much work that they have done towards control, specifically and especially the Jesuits from behind the scenes. They're asleep at the wheel when all of this was getting built out. For real, fam. That's what y'all think. Don't think that. They're rocking you to sleep. Okay? It's called control opposition. So let's also put on record and keep in mind that we are in the fire year. You know what I'm saying? And there's evidence to suggest this. So we don't have to be theoretical or hypothetical about it. We can be practical, right? There are things that are taking place to coincide with the attributes or the motifs of what this fire year is hitting for. Okay? The fire horse year. Year begins on February 17th. Also, falling on the day of a solar eclipse with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries just 3 days later. So we definitely know about that, the Neptune and Aries aspect, but as she said, also the Saturn and Aries conjunct in Aries. This is super intense energy, okay, and will mark an important moment in human history. In Chinese astrology, fire horse is one of the most extreme combinations. Horse energy is speed, movement, rebellion, independence. Fire turns that into intensity, heat, confrontation. Historically, fire horse years aren't about gradual change. They're about sharp breaks, social unrest, old structures collapsing, okay? Turning points you can't undo. The horse year is not about waiting for the right moment. It's about moving when the truth is clear. This is the year momentum returns, where courage replaces hesitation, where life responds when you choose direction. The horse doesn't stand still, it moves forward with purpose, and it takes you with it. This is about momentum. The magic is in the momentum. This is about winning streaks. You know what I'm saying? This is about gaining traction. and leading with action. This is about getting it done. This is about spontaneity. This is not about long, protracted planning. That's what everything prior to this was about. This is for you to get on your good foot and your high horse. Year of the horse, new beginnings, forward movements, momentum and action, independence, courage and confidence, creativity and passion, freedom and expansion, fast manifestation, alignment with purpose. Okay. And we can see even in the winter months, it was heating up. Okay. By evidence of the fact that we had our second warmest winter in U.S. history, despite ice activities. Despite the Iceman, right? It still was hella hot. It still was relatively warm. Okay? Now, here we are at the beginning of summer, and as Red said, things are heating up in very conspicuous locations around the planet as we simultaneously watch the World Cup, what I call the colonizer Hunger Games. We can see that the games that are being played by colonizer versus the colonized is very much the backdrop of what's taking place with the European heat wave, or the dome that's sitting over them and cooking them while they're getting cooked in domes across America on the soccer field.
C'est chaud.
Yeah, y'all see the prediction market? You know what I'm saying? Y'all can make some free bread. They said it's only a 20% chance. Come on, Simon.
Europe is getting absolutely cooked right now. Hundreds of heat records are being broken daily. Thousands of schools are being closed. Public events are being canceled. Alcohol consumption restrictions are being put in place.
See, they don't got a lot of air conditioning, right? And as you can see, you know, this number just don't give up. You know what I'm saying? When they're quoting and they're like, yo, the shit hit 44 Celsius. Yeah, that's the barometer in their language on the other side of the pond. That means it's hella hot, nigga. We getting cooked, right? 44 means something different to them than Celsius. But they getting cooked. They're getting cooked in Spain. They're getting cooked in Paris, right? They're getting cooked in Portugal. They're getting cooked in all of the places that are in play with the conversation that's taking place this year about repatriation, reparations, and, you know, things coming full circle for injustices that have been done. Okay, France, Italy, Spain, and the UK, all of the usual suspects, right? And the rednecks is finna get red here in this country next week, leading up to 7/4. Okay, see what they got going on. Now, you know, I mean, I've heard the accusations just like everyone else, right? That got to be a whole lot of HAARP activity to keep up globally with all of the incidents. We don't attribute nothing to Mama Nature. We don't give nothing to cancer. Since cancer came in, asses have been getting kicked. Belts have been put to ass. You understand me? But also MJ is hot on the charts, and MJ is back with a vengeance. And when they say what they said, when Michael comes back with the legions, that is the sign of the times. Because in order for the second coming to take place, it has to be preceded by the return or the resurrection of Mikhail energy. And we are literally sitting here and paying attention to a scorcher, to someone who has hit the planet with meteoric velocity and has shot to the charts. Number one, posthumously from the grave, 17 years removed, and he's number one with a bullet about to touch a Billy. Okay? Michael has returned, so that opens and paves the way for the return of what comes after Michael. As you can see, and I always speak about the fact that when I was watching this take place in real time, I saw 71 on the fire truck, and then they showed an overhead shot of a white van, and it had the number 17 on it. And I was researching at the same time the Tree of Life. Shout out to Noble Lampu, and he was speaking about these different channels. The 17th channel was, it was headed to a different Sephiroth. Long story short, goddamn it, I took note of the different numbers and the fact that they were mirrors of one another, and I took that as a sign that things were not end well. Right, started getting mentally prepared for the bad news. So by the time it hit, I was already in the right mind to do something, in honor of MJ energetically. 17 years later, we're back here, and of all of the years that he has transitioned, yeah, I could definitely feel the presence and the swelling of the energy, that he's back to finish some unfinished business. And not just because the movie's out either. You know what I'm saying? There's something else behind it. And again, as we speak about the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, we're looking at Tropic of Capricorn embellishing the energy of Saturn, and the Tropic of Cancer embellishing the energy of Sirius, where souls go out and where souls come in different seasons for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? But we are at that juncture point, and this is it. You feel me? And Michael is sitting on top. So what comes after Michael according to scripture? Because we're still playing the narrative, right? You are not outside of the narrative. The narrative still has to play out until it's broken. Until the mold is broken and there's something new, the narrative must play out. Okay, so the Blackamoor Messiah must return. This was the location of the sun in Sirius at the beginning of the age of Pisces. Okay. You exist in a binary star system, the dual hemispheres of God's mind. All right. Understanding as the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degrees equatorial on both ends. And that equals 47 when you add it up. 47 is a key integral number. Hence the fact that number 47 is presiding over the 250th ceremony Mason of this country to the heliacal rising of Sirius that takes place on July 4th. Right? Michael the Archangel is a premier spiritual figure revered across Christianity, Judaism, and Islam as a leader of heavenly armies, a warrior against evil, and a protector of the faithful, often called a saint despite being a non-human angel and depicted in art with a sword or scales, representing justice in his victory over Satan in Revelations 12. Key aspects of Michael the Angel: significance, known as the Prince of Angels, who is like God. He represents divine power and authority. Roles: he acts as a guardian of souls, defender of the church, and is believed to be the escort the faithful to heaven. Scriptural appearance: appears in Daniel as a protector of Israel and Joshua as the leader of the fight against the dragon in Revelations. Veneration: feast days are often celebrated on September 29th, November 8th and September 6th. He is traditionally associated with protection of police officers, soldiers, and the sick, and children, of course. Okay. You know, and again, he's doing the Billy. He's running up the numbers, but his family's still getting jerked. You know what I'm saying? The people who he did not like at all are in charge of his estate, and yes, they're getting a large piece of the finances. Catherine wasn't getting it. The children ain't getting it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the impact and the reward is not always financial. You know what I'm saying? And he still has some corrections to do to the contract, to the scriptural work that was done that has him still in a perpetual state of financial servitude to his copyright masters. Okay. Just the other day, I think it was the 22nd when Clive made transition, they passed a massive quantum legislation, right, ushering in the age of quantum computing, coincidentally around the same time when the Large Hadron okay. It's not the first time it's happened. And you know, the conspiracy theory is going to get all in their back. Collider made they did the, so while we're speaking on it, let's look at the energy behind this earthquake. I always say, and I must make a disclaimer, when I'm speaking about 44, I'm not advocating for right or wrong. That's not the position that I take as the precoder, decoder, you know, an observer of these energies. I'm pointing them out and I'm identifying the fingerprints of God. If you want to blame anyone, go and blame God. I didn't do it. I didn't do it, right? I'm explaining how it was done and the evidence that, you know, like how if somebody fires a gun and they got gunpowder on their hand, here you go. There's evidence that the alignment took place. Who's responsible for it? Ultimately, the creator. Even if man thought that he did it, something still, you know, implored him to do it. He got the idea from somewhere. It had to go through the clearinghouse, didn't it? So this is just showing that it goes according to order. Okay, it happened on Wednesday, 44. It happened in the season of Cancer, 44, and it happened as an earthquake. And people are saying that HARP was fired up, right? 44. Now, was it totally HARP? I don't know. I've seen somebody do a reading on it, and Spirit Realm said it was not HARP. They said it was Big Mama. So they said, right? And we'll soon see. Nonetheless, a lot of activity, a lot of seismic activity. Chiron, Taurus. Taurus is the earth. Chiron is the wounds, right? The earth is expressing wounds. The earth is expressing the fact that it's cleansing. The earth is expressing to burp and fart and cough and throw up and belch and shit like that. And the ancestors and the aliens and they're like, nigga, what are you doing to alleviate the stress off the back of your mama? I remember niggas would tell me, yo, I sell crack. I'm gonna sell this work because I want to help my moms out. I'm like, that's hurting your moms. You creating more situations in the neighborhood. Crackhead can hit your jums and be laying for your mother in the alley. You could end up, you a bootleg Batman story, my nigga. You the ghetto version of a Batman story. Like, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. You know what I'm saying? You stand on your own too and become a man. You become responsible. Hold shit down. We got to do the same thing for this planet right now because it's going through changes. And I don't know if I'm not saying we're ignoring it, but we're not having enough conversations about what part do we play. We love to say that we the owners, creators of the universe. Black man is God. Well, what role does he play on this planet right now to get it back in order? 3 days in a row, right? They have been showing seismic spikes in the Schumann resonance. And these seismic spikes are coming in intervals that will be very hard to manually plan. This has to be divine, right? And the timing of it coincides with spurts that hit at certain juncture points. So you would think that it's programmed, because we just don't have the capacity to think that, right, that this universe operates in accordance to numbers or octaves. We think that every time that we see order or structure, we think the man has something to do with it, because we just don't believe in the mathematical brilliance of a creator. But our physical manifestation, right? Your everyday in and out is proof that it does, my nigga. You're not in control, but you are in control of your personal being. The things that you're not subconsciously aware of that your body automatically does, that's mathematically precise. It's controlled by an algorithm internally, right? Almighty algorithm or almighty intelligence primarily. So there's spikes, there's ripples in the field, there's shifts in the paradigm that are taking place. It's not just physical manifestation, it's energetic signatures. These things are taking place internally inside of you right now. Right now. Right? Shit is being shooken up. All numbers in ancient texts of geometry. And if you hide geometry, you hide reality. These things are hidden in plain sight. They're right in front of us. Right? What we choose to do with it is on us. They're not just numbers, they're angles. Right? And we can put together something beautiful, something immaculate, something amazing, but we got to understand it first. We got to know what it is that we're dealing with. So conversations about earthquake conspiracy is nothing new. If you notice, this article is from 2024, and they're going back and they're speaking about all of the conspiracies attributed to HAARP, right, to some of the most monumental earthquakes. I always speak about the earthquake in Japan that caused Fukushima, which the planet is playing for right now. When they speak about super El Nino and global warming, all is that because they've been spilling radiation into the ocean since 2011 and not telling nobody. And it's been heating up the ocean. And now the ocean can't take it no more. Now it has to burp. Now it has to belch. Now it has to fart. Now I got to throw up. Right? And the people are bearing the brunt of it globally. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing, as a result of man's hand, of course, but man ain't in control. He's not in control. Diabolical, yes. In control, no. Okay. Look at the Clive Davis honeypot family tree. Let's take a look at this real quick. Speaking about Cancerian energy, right? On 6/22, all right, this man checked up out of here. Let's take a look at the energy signatures that he was courted to, that he may have either cut as a result of getting up out of here, or there might even be some souls that he might have took with him, like he was, like them shits was attached to Santa's sledge and he was a reindeer, okay? Because we have no idea how deep some of these soul ties go with these soul contracts. As you can see, he had Whitney sitting underneath the black cube There's cubed within the cube. There's cubed within the cube. There's cubed within the cube. And in the movie, he made sure that he said that this is signing in perpetuity, and I own your image and your likeness and your name throughout the universe, from one end of it to the other. Okay? Clive Davis, Honeypot Family Tree. Miles Davis, Janis Joplin, Santana, Bruce Springsteen, Chicago, Aerosmith, Billy Joel, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Big Dogs. Whitney Houston, Barry Manilow, Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, Gil Scott Heron, whoo, Grateful Dead, Carly Simon, The Kinks, Patti Smith, Kenny G. Let's look at some of the secondary ones. L.A. Reid and Babyface, which is LaFace, which has a label, which has Tony Braxton and Usher and TLC and Outkast, right? Sean Diddy Combs, who has a label, which has Bad Boy, Notorious B.I.G., Craig Mack, Faith Evans, 112, Mace Total, and The Lox. Okay, Alicia Keys, Luther Vandross, Kelly Clarkson, Jennifer Hudson, Carrie Underwood, and Harry Connick Jr. Pause. I'm sure that we're leaving some people out, right? And he has impacted and affected many other artists that did not make the tree, such as a Phyllis Hyman, right? He attempted to stymie the career of Anita Baker, of all people. Okay, so he has bukkakied on a lot of other artists who have been negatively impacted, don't necessarily make the family tree, but he attempted to bury them under his roots. And they rose from the concrete like black roses. Imagine if we ain't get Anita Baker. Right? And again, many other artists who he has impact and worked with that are not getting accredited to him and the things that he do. You feel me? But he had his hand in many and plenty of pots. Many and plenty. The complex impact. Let's look at the Harvard report. He was commissioned by Harvard, who was commissioned by CIA after they did their research on the metaphysics of melanin, and they knew about the frequency of soul music. They knew that they had to stop it. So they went to Harvard to get their best. And when Harvard commissioned the report, they went and got their best. And they went and got Clive Davis to run the play of how to take soul out of soul music. He's a soul snatcher. Okay? So they were making a market analysis because they were making a move on an industry that they were attempting to take over as well. That's how it was guided and shielded. Is looked at as a business play. Is looked at as a hostile takeover. Is looked at as capitalism. You understand? And it's been packaged in a marketing report that was co-written by a melanated person, right? Named Logan Westbrooks, who let the cat out the bag. Because it was effective as well. A definition of the soul market is critical both to the determinations of its size and composition. The issue is very complex and there is no general accepted definition. Efforts to define it in the terms of a certain sound lack precision. Defining it in terms of specific artists can be problematic because a given artist may produce a soul record one day and a rock record the next. At the same time, artists do manifest tendencies in one or another direction. A rough typology based upon three broadened tendencies is one way to suggest the soul market boundaries. So they were looking to isolate to see who were the artists, that consistently were soul artists. They said that James Brown was all about soul. They said Miles Davis almost had no soul. I don't know what they were listening to, but not in the sense that he would be a soul artist. He was a jazz soul artist, maybe. But nonetheless, they said the record company can create interest in a new record in anticipation for it by heavily promoting and advertising it before it is released. So the Clive Davis and his, research or his implementation of the research that was done, he implemented what was known now as payola. You know what I'm saying? Manufacturing the heat index of an artist, keeping them in continuous rotation, playing program, bringing in the concept of a program director when originally it was contingent on the DJ to play the hot music. It was a contingent on the DJ to create the playlist. They took out independent distribution and brought in the majors, and then they brought in program directors so they can pay them and keep the pipeline forever flowing and going once they realize that they can inundate the airwaves with product and then the people would adapt to it. Heavily promoting and advertising it before it is released, right? The fact that 30% of the top 40 is composed of records which have crossed over from soul stations underscores the strategic importance of soul stations as one of the most effective vehicles for getting onto the top 40. What this means is that the competition amongst promoters for soul airplay involves far more than simply the prospects of resonant sales to Black consumers. In sum, soul radio is of strategic importance to the record companies for two principal reasons. First, it provides access to a large and growing record buying public, namely the Black consumer. Second, and for some of the record companies now more important, it is perhaps the most effective way of getting a record to a top 40 playlist. So the same way that playlists are king right now in the streaming world, this is when the playlist was created or overemphasized as the mode in which you gotta crack the mode in which, I spent millions of dollars on this record, I need to recoup. So it needs to become a hit. How's it become a hit? We got to get it in front of as many possible consumers as we can so we can manufacture a hit. All right, let's read this next one real quick. It is my feeling that the young white audience of today is not half as hung up on seeing and digging Black artists as are the older white generation who control television programming. Thus, if more Black-oriented programs and Black artists were given national exposure, the effects on ratings may not be as detrimental as feared. With CRG, which is Columbia Record Group, entering the Black market, it would be in its and therefore CBS Incorporated best interest to do what it can to influence and encourage more Black exposure on CBS television in particular, and on other television networks and stations in general. It is interesting to note that NBC and RCA work together to bring out color television, right? So even them bringing out color TV, they said, was part of the marketing to say, if we're going to have more colors on TV, let's put them in color. So they started marketing color TV so they can push and promote melanin to melanated markets so they can dive or carve into what they now are finding out is a viable market that was proven because the Motown was able to push Diana Ross into the mainstream. And that let the cat out the bag when they seen how much bread was being made from an independent and that Black artists had crossover appeal. That's when they targeted Black music with everything that they had. Okay. Let's listen to this real quick. Jocelyn Sanchez has been in chronic pain since she was born with cervical scoliosis. While little eases the discomfort, she's found ways to distract herself from hurting. She practices yoga, she performs free flow dance, and while she works, she frequently listens to house music tuned to 432 hertz, a frequency than typical concert pitch. Music recorded in 432 hertz is taken off of social media platforms and music streaming services where users can find an increasing number of tracks and playlists. Oh, they're saying it is taking off. Not it was taken off, but it's taken off. So more people are programming their music to 432 and making it available on social media and people are gravitating towards that, and they're finding that more consumers are looking to have a healing frequency in their music, so they're taking it upon themselves to reset, you know, or reattune their music to 432, and they're taking it out of 440. Okay. Let me see this real quick. They say scientists say there's no robust evidence that music tuned to 432 hertz has any special benefits or healing properties. Some musicians and listeners say it helps them connect with nature, relax, or concentrate. There are frequencies going on right now that are higher than what we can hear and lower than what we can hear. And they're not special because they're one of the billions and billions of frequencies that we're receiving right now, said Susan Rogers, a Berklee College of Music professor emeritus who worked as Prince's sound engineer during the 80s. To set one aside and say that it is the frequency of the universe is, as far as the science community is concerned, nonsense. So she banging. Okay. Here we go. 432 versus 440. As you can see, as I said, look towards the left. 432, that's like 144. 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9. 9 is a spiral. So 432 has more of a circular motion. It's free flowing. It's flowing. It's spiraling. It's looping. 440 is clunky. It's a square, right? It's going to hit the side. It's going to make noise. You feel me? It's like a Flintstone tire. Like Flintstone, the shows, not the company Flintstone, but a clugger. Okay. In 1953, a worldwide agreement was made based on an idea by the Rockefeller Foundation to change the frequency of music. So when they stuck the concert pitch in A440, I believe that was they were tapping into something called the devil's interval, which is F sharp, I believe. Right. So they had to change that attunement so they could get into the devil's interval. Right. There was a lot of science that went behind these decisions to co-opt these octaves and create dysfunctional, disruptive music where it's tearing the DNA at a microscopic level. If you can see the picture to the right, the Dr. Emoto, the experiment that he did with music and how it responds to frequency. 440 is, as Kanye West also said in his interview when he's speaking about the 808 being a sub-bass frequency, it tears up your chakra system from a subatomic, sub-energetic level. Okay, it's like having 1,000 paper cuts as opposed to like $1.50. You know what I'm saying? You're still getting cut the fuck up. I want to talk about these bees, y'all. Right? And we speaking about frequencies and things of that nature. I want to make note. Oh, we were speaking about Cancer season. So I want to make note of some of the freaky things that are happening in and around Cancer season, because astrologically and zodiacally, we can look at a lot of the news and says that it coincides specifically with the seasons, right? With the seasons. Right after we left Gemini, we get in these twin earthquakes. In some astrological systems, it is still Gemini, right? So the Gemini energy is still lingering. But I'll be damned if we're not seeing the Cancerian energy come through as well. So when we speak about bees, we're speaking about the beehive cluster, which is known as the M44 cluster, right? Which is in the constellation of Cancer. M44, also known as the beehive cluster, is one of the brightest open clusters in the night sky. So when I said mythologically and astrologically, they say the souls come from Cancer constellation by way of Sirius. They're speaking about the Tropic of Cancer and the season of Cancer, right? This is when souls come in. And the Tropic of Capricorn, the season of Capricorn, after the winter solstice, is when the souls go out. And then in some exchanges, it's vice versa. Okay. Situated in the constellation Cancer, it contains hundreds of stars spread across a wide region and is visible to the naked eye under dark skies. Located about 600 light years away, it is a intermediate age cluster that includes both hot blue stars and cooler sun-like stars. Through binoculars or a telescope, the beehive reveals a dazzling scatter of stars, serving as a striking example of stellar evolution within a rich and dynamic cluster. So I had looked up and seen, because I was like, damn, there's a correlation here. You know, the Wu-Tang Killer Bees just swarmed the garden when the Spurs were there. So I looked up and seen how far away this bee spill was from San Antonio, and it's like 4.5 hours. You know what I'm saying? But Texas is big, so that's a small distance. We'll get back to that. A lot of bee activity, right? They rededicated. They got a new bee house over at the White House. That seems to be Melania's. That's her that's her side thing that she loves doing. She loves working with the bees and shit. They got a dope little bee house thing set up, and they got all of these memes about Trump and the Beekeeper movie, and the bee stuff goes deep. It's mad mythological and it's multi-tiered. And as you can see in the picture to the bottom right, King Charles was on his latest state visit. They had a royal dinner, and there was a lot of symbolism they was doing around these bees. I remember the bee landed on Trump's hand during the ceremony. A lot of bee motifs, and the bees stand for the Nesubiti, it's the king. And a lot of people were saying that this visit was a changing of the guard, and they were doing a transference of ownership and control, sovereign powers. Bees denote sovereignty. Bees denote the king or the Nesubiti. Bees denote cosmic order. Bees denote a lot of things. So for them to be so sharply featured in the symbolic gesturing or the symbolic posturing of this administration, very interesting, because the next day, damn near, is when they started announcing that they were closing the nation's premier bee lab. So he might front and fake like they like the bees, but we've seen them do any and everything that they can to undermine agriculture in this country, to undermine the farmer in this country, and to undermine nature's ecosystem. There's a war on terror, right? And terror spelled Terra. That's terra firma. That is the Latin word for earth. It's a war on terror, not terror. Not with the hard R, right? But with the loose A, like nigga. Terror. And terror is Tara, which is Queen Yin, which is this divine feminine entity of this plane of existence. Mama Earth, governed by Big Mama Sirius, right? Of which, again, the bees coming from the constellation of Cancer, or direct representation, connection and correlation, the underpinning and the undergirding of our food system. You would think that they would be doing more to save them if they was concerned with us eating. Last year alone, right, was the biggest hit that the bees colony, what they call colony collapse syndrome, right? They took the biggest hit. I started beekeeping as a result that I just can't sit by and just watch this happen, right? I gotta do something for the bees. The bees have done so much for us. I'm indelibly in debt to the bees. And then, Queen Bee herself was not gonna miss the opportunity right when Cancer moved in, right? Right when the bee motif was the strongest. Here goes the beehive, right? The 44 resonators themselves playing on that blue and that 4 energy, that 44 energy, super duper symbolic, right? they're collapsing waves on symbolisms. The nigga pops up with my afro and shit, but says it is for Blue, his daughter. Like, these niggas is different. They different. They different with the way that they work their 44s is different. They got the cobalt blue, right? with why miss the opportunity to upsell? They upsell the fuck out of that experience. Right? He in everybody's pocket too. Like, they both in their pockets. She don't gotta sell tour tickets. He got 30-year memorabilia. 8 years of hair growth. Mm-hmm. Right? This shit is quantum. That's the only way to explain what we're seeing. We're looking at quantum intertanglement, not quantum entanglement. It's quantum intertanglement, right? We're entwined, we're entangled with these entertainers, the things that we have been given attention and focus and energy to. Sometimes they're tethered to you as well. They're intertwined with you. It's very weird. It can't be explained with the rational mind. It's quantum. Okay. I wish I had this other information on Qua. But again, that's all God energy. That all denotes, you know what I'm saying, creative force energy. And yeah, I'm gonna be going further in on that. Not right this. I still want to do this book on the quantum quickening. But yeah, that quantum, like I said, they just passed the whole, and you should look it up, you know, especially if you went to AI. That quantum supremacy kicked in last week. I remember a time when the Knicks were sabotaging themselves and they was cutting their nose to spite their face because they had to get rid of the old guard. And I remember they did such a good job of stripping down their old guard when Charlie Ward and Allen Houston said some foul shit and the Jews got in their feelings. They undermined this team and they've been tearing this team down ever since. So I'm glad to see that the rebuilding phase was authorized, the upswing on the other way up. You know what I'm saying? Started kicking in, because this was since 2001. Charlie Ward and Allen Houston said something that the Jews of New York City didn't like, and they've been chipping at the Knicks ever since. In an article being published this weekend's New York Times Magazine, Ward said Jews are stubborn and persecute members of their faith who become Christians. The writer took it out of context, Ward said Friday. I didn't mean to offend any one group because that's not what I'm about. I have friends that are Jewish. Actually, my best friend is a Jewish guy, and his name is Jesus Christ. You see how he did that? They was like, oh yeah. So all that time that I knew that they had like Marbury and all of that, the Knicks wasn't ready yet. It was like they were still paying them back. Let's see what Allen did. Knicks guard Allen Houston described as pulling Pilate and indexing a passage from the Bible, Matthew 26, verse 67. Then they spit in Jesus's face and hit his with their fists. Damn. War continued on. According to the article, there are Christians getting persecuted by Jews every day. There's been books written about this. People who are raised Jewish and find Christ, and then their parents stop talking to them. Was he lying? Right, so the ADL came in and blaming the death of Jesus on Jews and accusing Jews of persecuting Christians. They have revived the historic myths which have been the source of anti-Semitism for centuries, said the statement from ADL director Abraham Foxman, Unfortunately, Mr. Ward's explanations of his comments shows he just doesn't get it. So yeah, they've been punishing the Knicks. So it's good to see that their big dogs came in, which is the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church under Pope Leo, because these are the Knicks, the Nova Knicks, should I say. And Nova is new. So this is a new energy. This is a new reset that came under a new aegis. And the new age of the new ages is going to be christening of this new Pope, right? The restore and resurrection of the New York Archdiocese in by way of sports programs once again. Getting new blood, new children, right? And the way that they overlap this ceremonial ritual by building this cultural to be, you know what I'm saying, the Pope of the Knicks or the Pope of sports. He's praying for different teams. He's gonna be the go-to. You know what I'm saying? Same way that they're gonna want to sit Spike Lee in the front of events, right? So, like I said earlier, when you see the bees swarming in Texas, 24 million of them on the side of a road taking shit over, right? It's an echo, or the same way that we saw the Wu-Tang Killer Bees swarming that game at halftime. Somebody put your phone on mute. Put your phone on mute, please. Fam, could you put your phone on mute?
WSLY HD2 North Truck. The way.
Greg.
I got it. Hold on. Let me find it.
Find the woman's life, joy, and peace. Help us share the goal.
There you go.
Love y'all. Yeah, this is means I can knock my Wu-Tang segment, right? So when the killer bees swarmed the garden, right? When the bees swarmed the garden and bit the ankle of the spur, right? The bees became the Achilles heel of the Spurs. Okay? And then the rest is history. We know how that went. Knicks in 5. A few days later, we get the capside in it. Says 24. Come on, man. Yeah. Y'all from Texas? Don't take this personal. Don't take it. This is an observation. Jokes. Don't take it the wrong way. You dig what I'm saying? But you see that? It's a Queen Bee Supply LLC. You understand? That's that Cancerian M44 activation of Queen Bee energy by way of the Wu-Tang activation and the 44 resonating game 4 of the Knicks. And while we're at it, you would think that it denotes that on the surface, because this is a fire horse year, you would swear what? That the momentum is with the motif. Let me say that again. You would swear that the momentum is with the motif. But the thing about the fire year is telling you that you can be packaged and promoted as the one. A nigga who is not this overlooked, like these teams in the World Cup, if they got more motion and momentum than you, they can take your shit over without you can be dressed for the party and swear that it's gonna be yours and get your chain snatched. Right? So it's not you can't be the man by name only. You can't be the man because you dressed for the part. You can't just be the man because you showed up. No, you got to motherfucking finish your breakfast. You got to carry this whole thing out. He who has the momentum will have the magic in the fire horse year. And it's not who you think it is. It's not the stuff that's on the surface. Right? Because they had the fire horse with them. Unexpectedly, it was in a motif that specifically was part of their fashion attire. Okay. It was almost like their uniform under their uniform. That motif, the Siegelman stable, that became a staple of the team that had a story or a narrative attached to it. That was their fire horse energy, right? So it's not the obvious. The fire horse energy is like, don't look at the obvious. It's the shit behind, that you don't see. That's the engine that's pushing these things. That's the engine that's going to push forward this phoenix-like meteoric rise energy. Who's going to take the summer? Who's going to take the summer? Who's going to cause the upset? Who's going to be the disruptor? You know what I'm saying? It's not the ones you think it's going to be, not on the surface, right? Poly market and all of the betting markets, they had the Spurs. They was the favorites. It's not going to be the favorites. It's the underdog here. Okay? There's a motif that's taking place in the narrative right in our face that we're missing. And it's the 9/11 ritual, but it's in reverse. They're reversing the curse that New York has been under for 25 years. Because the last time that we unified, it was on tragedy. It was on pain. It was on tears. It was on shoulders crying. It wasn't the free spirit of laughter. It wasn't the release. Right? Because a laugh and a fart is the same thing. Okay? You can find God in the gases. The things that are unpredictable and uncontrollable, that's where God exists at. You can't hold a good laugh in, and you can't hold a good fart in either. I don't know if I'm being too explicit. It's a Sunday night, but God damn it, these are the places that you find God at. And we just witnessed the curse be reversed. Look at the intricate play. Look how 11 encodes into 9 and 9 encodes into 11. These are mathematical equations, algorithms that we're watching play out in physical manifestation of the randomness of a jersey number, which becomes that person's energy signature. 23 will always be 23. 33 will always be what 33 is. We understand those numbers. 32 is magic. But it's literally, it was magic before magic. Shout out to the Kabbalah god, A.A. Rashi, who speaks extensively on the magical properties of the number 32. I speak extensively on the magical properties of the number 44. Just so happens. Right? Just so happens that the last time that his father was in the finals in 99, they were playing the Twin Towers. It just so happens that the Twin Towers were built and opened up on April 4th, 1973, the same time or the last time their victory came to our city, the same year that hip hop was born, right? It's not a coincidence that the head coach is Mike Brown, and this team is entangled in a social justice narrative that elicits or evokes the memory of Mike Brown and Ferguson, right? It's not a coincidence that there's a doppelganger overlapping Gemini frequency and the fact that Carmelo Anthony with a C, because New York bangs blue, as opposed to Carmelo Anthony with a K in Texas, coinciding with the same team that the Knicks are playing for the finals, got inducted into or nominated for the legendary Hall of Fame on the same day that this young man caught the charge in Texas. And he's already used to sharing his name. He had to do it with LaMelo, who last year had one of the hottest songs. So that name has been in rotation, has been on the cooker, right? And this man evokes, when I see him, I think about his son, because the son is the evidence of whatever love was present at some point between her and Lala. When I see the son, I see my nephew. When I see the son, I see other children. His son is a archetype, a prototype. He is too. See, we don't speak enough about, well, who was Carmelo? He might mean something to you, or he might not mean something to you. But that little chain that he got on mean a whole lot to the city of New York City. And they know what that chain mean. And when they see that chain, they can't forget that chain. And when they see that chain, they get nervous because that chain is evidence that there might be an on-ramp that you have to some consciousness. And if there's one thing that they're scared of, if there's one thing that they want to get rid of, it's consciousness, my nigga. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? So we don't. Let me just fill in the blanks and not make any accusations. Jay-Z on April 6th of 2014 sat courtside at a New York Nets game, and they were more concerned with what he had around his neck than what he had on his arm, meaning that they weren't concerned or cared too much that he was sitting there with Beyonce courtside. They were looking at the chain that he had on, and the New York Post ran a hit piece on him about he was a member of a black supremacist group that hates white people, calls them devils, a hate group, right? And this is when they were castigating and creating a narrative around woke. New York Jews or New York media understand what that chain means, and they understand the threat of having rappers interacting or interfacing with the ideology that connects to that chain, because they have been able to bring six-pointed energy into the game by way of Puff Daddy and the aspirational rap wave. Him and Biggie were graduates of Catholic school, right? They both were conformists to the narrative of party and bullshit, as opposed to the struggle, which is connected to the ideology of resistance, what Clive Davis just came from extinguishing when he put the flames out for Gil Scott-Heron. And he refused to stand with Miles when he was being political. And he just got the marching orders from the CIA and Harvard that they're not going to allow political discourse in the music. No liberation, revolutionary spirit will come through those offices or black soul anymore. They were commissioned and told to what? Take the soul out of soul music and stop allowing a lane for revolutionary discourse, because they saw what Bob Marley was able to do internationally with his conversation around liberation. So they're terrified when the God bodies is on the scene. They're terrified when a black man is utilizing their money, their budget, their loans to get to know himself, thyself, do the knowledge and then spread it. They can't contain that forest fire. They got, they got a fire hole for a lot of other stuff. They don't have it for that yet. They can't shut down the Big Daddy Kane. They can't shut down and rock him. They can't deny that stuff because they can't gauge it. They can't duplicate it, and they can't dismiss it. They just wish the niggas won't do it. So they give him everything to not do it. Right? Because that is the fear of the BLACKAMOOR Messiah energy. Right? They know the messianic forces come from that. Okay? Osiris Carmack Belton, the young boy was 14. Okay? So he loses the case. And then they put Carmelo, right, in a twist. And then Spike Lee shows up with the number 14 for Pope Leo on his jersey. Because Pope Leo is the pontiff. He is the Osirian energy. He's the father. He's the Ptah of the church. He's Peter. Okay? So they're running a ritual that's unprecedented. Like I said, the Mike Brown energy, you know what I'm saying? Mike Brown is in the building, right? And Mike Brown has a Mike Brown is a triple entendre in Black America now, because Mike Brown represents the coach of the Knicks. Mike Brown represents this young man who was killed in Ferguson, and Mike Brown represents the inept commissioner in FEMA in Katrina. Mike Brown, remember George Bush with Mike Brown? Mikey, remember that Mike Brown, the incompetence of Mike Brown that caused countless of melanated people, okay, their lives. Remember that Mike Brown? Who was keeper of horses in a horse year? Remember that? Anyway, remember this? Remember this Spur from San Antonio? Remember the Iceman? Remember Gervin? Who you think he was channeling? So with him, the Iceman is a triple entendre. It deals with the Iceman Gervin, because he's a Texas native now, right? It deals with Ice, because he's tapping into that aspect, fuck you niggas aspect, right? Vengeance. Vengeance is the order of the day. The Trump administration was voted in November 5th, which is the day of V for Vendetta. It's the Guy Hawk Day. Remember the 5th of November. It's about vengeance. The entire administration is about vengeance. So the background frequency of the country and of the globe now is about vengeance, get backs, right? Get them niggas, drill them niggas, and regardless of what anybody say, finish your job. That's what they told Israel. And in the triple entendre aspect of the Iceman energy, is they saying, oh, I heard a lot of people saying he's getting into his mother's side. It's impossible. He's always been in his mother's side. He's getting into his father's side. What's colder than a pimp? Huh? When niggas do bad, they gotta lean on your women, on your daughters. That's how they bounce back. So he came with aggression, confrontational consciousness, because regardless of what people think, like, he's a poet. He don't got bubblegum raps. That shit is multi-layered. This nigga's shallow deep. Are you crazy? Y'all not reading the lyrics. And y'all ain't be seeing the decoded. Shout out, look, damn, what's this girl name? It's a young lady on Instagram, and she nice with us. Forget her name. I'll drop it in the chat later. But she unpacks a lot of his content as of lately. I've been unpacking this stuff metaphysically and metaphorically since 2010. So I'm telling you, he's not shallow. He's a poet. His shit is layered. You know what I'm saying? Sun is a Scorpio. So he was in a scorpionic bag, and nobody does revenge. Nobody does comebacks better than a Scorpio. Pause. All right. And these people is cold. Ain't nobody more ice cold than MAGA. Right? Ain't no heart colder than Trump's. And his base loves him for it. Right? All next week, they're gonna, in the season of Cancer, which is the motif of the mother, they're gonna speak about throwing out children that don't have parents out of the country. And that's gonna be a feeding frenzy for the PDFs. Are you crazy? Right? They're making Jason Month offerings in the beginning of summer ritual season. And our people gonna politicize it and be like, get them out of here. They taking our jobs. I'm like, they babies. What you mean? So let's keep in mind, I didn't finish this whole aspect of the Knicks motif and what the father-son motif represents leading into the summer months. You know what I'm saying? What that 9/11 or that 11/9 reversal ceremonial ritual represents. They brought life up, the canon of heroes, right? Look where they were walking up from, Wall Street, where melanated bodies were first commodified and commercialized. And also the backdrop of this is the changing of the financial system, right? New York being the financial capital. This year being the year that the Clarity Act and the Genius Act is going to change currency into a digital medium come a few days from now, right? Beginning of July. Everything is going to change. So this whole aspect of the new valuation of melanated bodies by way of their athleticism, you know, they brought a whole city back. You know what I'm saying? They brought a whole city back, and by proxy, who knows what's going to ripple out of that. But that the battery, right? The charging of their energy, of their body, what Dolan said, give me 2 weeks sacrifice, right? Put that battery to work. Let's run up a trillion. Up the canyon of heroes, past their ancestors sleeping in the African burial ground. Those same bodies that were auctioned off on Wall Street. Hey, anybody can take the credit. If it was FBI